Welcome back to another episode of Countdown Scouting Network. I'm your host, Joey Garcia. And today we're looking into the 2023 draft. So here, let me fix this really quickly. Cool. Awesome. All right. So today we're going to be looking at some quarterback prospects for the 2023 NFL draft. I think I have about 11 guys on here. There are a couple more that we'll get to probably later in the cycle, but these are kind of the 11 that I have my eyes on right now. So before we get into that, we'll get into some NFL and football news. So first thing is I want to correct myself. I think last week I talked a little bit about Kyler Murray and how he wasn't showing up to OTAs. And I kind of criticized that because Lamar Jackson is showing up to OTAs. And Lamar Jackson's more proven. He has an MVP. He has playoff wins, and Kyler has none of that. I stand corrected. I guess Kyler Murray is now showing up to OTAs, and I don't believe Lamar Jackson has shown up yet. So that's a mistake by me. So I'm going to correct that right now. But I still stand by what I said about Kyler Murray. I do think he needs to be there, even if he's not participating. I think he needs to be there, just involved with the team camaraderie type stuff. So I wanted to get that off the table. The next thing is Nick Saban versus Jimbo Fisher. So I think it was last week. We didn't end up talking about it, but last week. Jimbo Fisher, or Nick Saban actually criticized Jimbo Fisher, saying that he was paying players, and that's the only reason why they had the number one recruiting class this cycle. And Alabama had the number 2 recruiting class, so you could tell he was definitely mad at that. My thoughts on it are, I don't think Nick Saban was saying anything to criticize or accuse Jimbo Fisher of cheating. I think he was reaching out to his own boosters, trying to let them know that they need to shell out some more money, or else, they're not going to be able to keep up the number 1 recruiting class as the national championship. So I think it was more of a call to arms with his own boosters, but it did not sound good. And Jimbo Fisher, as well as Deion Sanders, also both kind of got into that. And Jimbo Fisher was very mad, brought up some stuff from the past, saying that, before NIL, Nick Saban was doing some sketchy stuff and maybe paying some players under the table. So I don't know if the NCAA is going to look into that, but Jimbo Fisher is kind of throwing Nick Saban under the bus, and I'm excited for that October 8th showdown that Texas A&M and Alabama have. So all right, that's really all I have right now. OTAs are still going on. You hear a lot of stuff out of OTAs, but for the most part, it's learning simplified parts of the playbook, more of a team building exercise right now, kind of getting some chemistry together, learning basic parts of the playbook, and just kind of getting the team back together. So not really much going on with it. You might hear some stuff about some rookies looking really good. Again, I don't think they have any contact right now. So it's all helmets and in jerseys right now. So they're running around in basically shorts and a t-shirt. So I wouldn't take much from what you're hearing right now. So we'll see. Once we get closer to the preseason, we'll start to hear some more stuff. And I think that's whenever you really need to take some of that into consideration. So let's get into this quarterback class. It's going to be a really fun quarterback class. Not all of these guys that I'm going to talk about today will probably declare this year, but there's a lot of guys that could go in the top 3 rounds. So, all right, let's share this screen. Actually, let's make sure I'm in the right spot. There we go. All right. All right, so let's look forward to this 2023 QB class. Kind of give a little preview of this class. So there are two guys that everyone's been talking about, and I tend to agree that should declare next year and should be first-round picks. You have, of course, the Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young out of Alabama, and C.J. Stroud, quarterback out of Ohio State. Both of these guys are really young, 20 and 21 years old when the season starts this upcoming year. Of course, Bryce Young from Alabama, we'll kind of talk about him first. I think he has enough mobility, a really good arm, not even just good enough. He's got a really good NFL arm. His anticipation is there. And, he kind of has everything you need, except I will say right now, what really scares me with him is it says on Alabama's roster that he's 6 feet tall, 195 pounds. So obviously he's only 20. He's about to be 21 years old. I think in the next 2 months he'll be 21. So, so he can put some more weight on. Again, he's not even 21 yet. But I've also heard that people have seen Bryce Young standing next to other guys that were barely 6 foot or 5'11", and he looks smaller than them. So I would not be surprised if, Bryce Young declares and he comes out to the combine and he's actually 5'10" and 5/8 or something like that, something smaller. The weight does kind of scare me a little bit too. Bryce Young is more mobile than Tua, but it kind of gives off that same vibe where he's got a good NFL arm. He's mobile within the pocket. I don't think he's going to be one of those Lamar Jackson types. He doesn't have that kind of burst or that kind of acceleration where you're going to want him out in the open running around a lot. He's more of, roll out of the pocket and extend the play type mobility. Same with C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud doesn't have as much mobility as Bryce Young, but again, I think they're both very above average NFL mobility, above average NFL arm strength. They both can read defenses fairly well. I'll have to look more into it, but at this moment, I like them both with their ability to process defenses. So that's why I think both these guys will go in the first round. Really, no matter how their NFL or how their final season at these schools goes, I think they're locks to be first round guys. So getting into kind of the negatives we already talked about with Bryce Young is I think he's more like 5'10", not 6 foot, and 195 pounds is scary. I think they both need to put on probably at least another 10 pounds, because at if CJ Stroud from Ohio State is really 6'3", 215 pounds, that's really skinny. Obviously they're both young and they're going to put on weight as they get older. So it's not something that takes them out of first round for me. It's just something I would be hesitant about and be looking forward to when the combine comes around next year. It's probably going to be something that's talked about. All right, going to the tier. I'm calling these guys tier 1 QB prospects because Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, I think they're no-brainers. I don't think you really count them as prospects anymore, just because I think, both of them are going to go in the first round regardless of the season they have. So these are 3 of my tier 1 prospects. You can just tell by their sizes. You have Tyler Van Dyke from Miami, Will Levis from Kentucky, and Anthony Richardson from Florida. All 3 of these guys, 6'3" or above, 230 pounds or above. So they've got that body, they've got that build, and they're all mobile guys as well. They're not, they're not pocket quarterbacks. They're not going to sit in the pocket. You can roll them out. You can do read options. You can do RPOs with them. You can even do QB draws. they're big enough where they can all take the hit, I believe. And with guys like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, um, they want to take that hit. They really want to lay a bruise in on people. So it's kind of like with Josh Allen. When you see him or Cam Newton running, and instead of like Lamar Jackson, for instance, will kind of make a juke and try to get further outside and make a man miss. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, just like Cam Newton and Josh Allen, are looking for contact. If they have a safety out in the open, they're gonna try to lower their shoulder on them. So all three of these guys, I think, they're big. They've got the arm, they've got the mobility, but the accuracy on all three of these guys, they've got to take a step forward on their accuracy. If all three of these guys or one of these three takes a step forward, I think they'll be, in the first round. I keep hearing a lot about Will Levis. I don't see it yet. That accuracy is not there. Anthony Richardson, I'm a big Anthony Richardson fan. He's a little injury prone for me. I'm going to have to see him have a healthy season this year at Florida, as well as get some of those accuracy issues and concerns, kind of put them to bed this year. So Tyler Van Dyke's the same way. It's all with these guys. It's all accuracy. If one of them or all three of them can get their accuracy under control this year and really show steps forward, they're going to be top 15 guys. All three of these guys can be top 15 guys if they control the football. All right, now we'll move on to the tier 2 quarterback prospects. These are guys who I think, if they make a good step forward this year, you're talking about second, third round. If they make an existential leap forward, then you can kind of be talking about a first round talent with them. I could see them all going back to school and hoping next year is their year. Or I could see all three declare and go between the first and third round. Starting off with Spencer Rattler, he transferred from Oklahoma to South Carolina. Last year, in mock drafts, he was mocked to be the number 1, number 2, number 3 overall pick. He had some issues moving the ball at Oklahoma, reading defense. He threw a couple picks. He, wasn't confident. He started losing his confidence. 5-star Caleb Williams came in for him, and that kind of was the end of it for his season. So he transferred to South Carolina. Again, he's 6'1", 200 pounds, but he doesn't look 6'1", 200 pounds. He looks, 6 foot 205, 6'1", 215. Like, he kind of looks a little thicker than that. So I'm not sure if that's his actual height and size. I think he's probably around 6 foot 6'1". And if he could put 15 more pounds on him, he's got the mobility as well, where when I say mobility, I mean pocket mobility or the ability to roll out and extend a play. I'm not talking about, Lamar Jackson, where he's going to run for 1,000 yards. I don't see that. I could see him running for 300, 400 yards maybe at the NFL level, but for the most part, it's just getting him on the move, and he can make throws off his base. So I do like Spencer Rattler. I just don't see him being able to step up and be a first round talent. One with his size, his arms good, but I don't think his arms really that elite. As well as he has had last year, he had problems reading defenses. So again, a lot of these guys, it's going to be processing. Again, Spencer Rattler stepping into a new system. The Oklahoma system supposed to be QB friendly, and he struggled in it. So I think he has the ability. I just want to see his mental processing get a little bit better, as well as his attitude towards the game. You could tell maybe he wasn't confident because he knew Caleb Williams was looking good in practice, but as soon as he made one bad mistake, he was done. He was out of the game. He was in his head already. So I'd like to see him, have a shorter memory. If he throws an interception or he throws it into double coverage or he takes a bad sack, I want to see him just shake it off and move on to the next play. That's something I want to see with Spencer Rattler. And if he can do some of that stuff and get more confidence with him like he had in high school, like he had his freshman year, I could see big things from him, and I could see him being, a late first rounder to third round pick. So the next one, Dylan Gabriel, he was the UCF quarterback, transferred to Oklahoma. I've heard some negative things about his character. I'm not 100% sure if that's true, so I'm not going to really talk about that on here. We might hear more in the combine process if he ends up declaring this year. Again, he's small. He's got a skinny frame. He ended up breaking his collarbone against Louisville at the end of the game last year. He's 6 feet tall. I really think he's more of a 5'11", 5'10" and 5'8", something like that. And he's 185 pounds. So I already talked about Bryce Young being under 200 pounds and being under 6 foot as a little bit of a concern for me. It's even more of a concern with Dylan Gabriel. I would love to see him, come to Oklahoma's opening day at 205 pounds. I would love to see that. I think he has a really good arm. He's got an NFL caliber arm. It's not above average for NFL standards, but I think it's adequate. Again, he's another guy who's got good mobility on him. But again, it's more of a Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson mobility, where it's maneuvering the pocket, rolling out and extending plays, not necessarily getting downfield on QB design runs. So that's all I have to say about him. He came from UCF's offense, where it's mostly vertical go balls or bubble screens. Again, now he's going to Oklahoma, where they have Jeff Lebby as the offensive coordinator. And again, it's going to be go balls and bubble screens. So I would like to see him throw more, more patterns like dig routes, out routes, comebacks. I'd really like to see him run more smash patterns and read more of just 2 to 3 read progressions. Right now, it's really just one and then a dump down. So I'd like to see him prove that he can process the field a little bit better. But if he can do any of that this year and stay healthy while taking big hits, I could see him being a guy that's talked about in the second or third round. So the last one in my tier 2 quarterback prospects are Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. The big downside on him is that he's already 24. So going into his rookie, if he declares this year, which he could still come back, if he declares this year, he's going to be 25 when the NFL season starts. So that's something that kind of scares me, that I think it will push him down draft boards regardless of how well he does this year. But for 6'4", 220 pounds, he's very mobile. He is design run mobile. He's got good shakes. He can lower his shoulder if he has to. He's got a good arm. Again, he's in that Josh Heupel spread system, so it's a lot of go balls, screens, and RPO slants. So I would like to see him open up the route tree a little bit and be able to throw more 1, 2, 3 progression stuff. I don't know if we're going to see that. I really don't. But if he can have another really good year and lead Tennessee to a winning season, and he declares, I could see him, being a 3rd, 4th round pick and being kind of like a Dak Prescott type, where he comes in just to be a backup for one of these older guys. And, I think you could see him doing something. So I'm very excited. He's actually probably my most excited QB prospect to watch this college football season. All right. So my tier 3 list, this is the last list. So of course there are some guys that I've missed on this, but these are just guys that I've already had kind of a recollection of what they can do. And I think any of these guys could go ahead and go to the next level after a solid season this year. So starting off, Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. He was getting buzzed preseason of last year. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, so he's got a skinny frame. He's going to be 21 when he comes into the season, so very solid age. Again, this offense is not a pro style offense, so he's always going to have concerns with that. I would like to see him, put up really good numbers. It's really going to be hard to analyze his game film just because again it's a lot of go balls, it's a lot of RPOs, it's a lot of triple option type stuff. It's not really necessarily stuff you'll see in the NFL, and he's not asked to make all the throws. But I'd like to see him make a higher percentage of his plays and just throw some wow balls, because I do have questions about his arm. I think he's mobile enough, but I would definitely like to just see some wow plays from him, kind of like we saw with Malik Willis from Liberty last year. Again, that offense was not the hardest offense in the world to master. Didn't ask the quarterback to read too much. It was more of a either this guy or this guy and just throw the ball. So but again, with Liberty and Malik Willis, he made some wow plays that you're like, oh my God, five quarterbacks in the NFL can make that throw and that's it. So I'd like to see Grayson McCall do some of that. If he can't, I don't know. Obviously, I think someone could take a shot on him, but I just, unless he can make some wow throws, I don't think he's going in the first, second, or third round, but we will see. The next guy, Kedon Slovis. Again, he was from USC, and he ended up transferring to Pittsburgh. I'm actually really excited about this one. He's 6'3", 205 pounds, so again, he's a little skinnier than I would like. He's only going to be 21 when he comes into the season. It's funny. I thought he was older. I thought he was around this Malik Cunningham, 23 years old. But I guess he's only going to be 21. He's a guy who he can kind of make all the NFL throws right now. It's really, can he be consistent with it, and can he stay healthy? Those are two things that he's going to have to prove this year at Pittsburgh. And if he does, he's one guy for my tier 3 that I think has a shot of going in the back of the first round. I don't think he's got top 15 unless he goes out there and does better than Kenny Pickett did at Pittsburgh this last year. But he's a guy to look out for. If any of these guys out of tier 3 is going to make it into the first round, I think Kedon Slovis is my vote for that. So scooting over, we have Malik Cunningham out of Louisville. Started at LSU, transferred to Louisville. He's been there for a couple years. He's 6'1", 190 pounds. And again, these are numbers that are given from the school. So Louisville says he's 190 pounds. So that's concerning to me. If Louisville puts that their quarterback's 190 pounds, is he playing at 175, 180? That's one of the things. So that's kind of what scares me. Same with what I just said about Dillon Gabriel is, he plays at 185, or that's what they have him at. I think it's more like 175. They're saying it's 185. So, because if I have a skinny quarterback, I'm going to boost his numbers at least 10 pounds. So I'm thinking the same thing with Malik Cunningham. Honestly, he doesn't have as pretty of a ball as Dillon Gabriel. That's why he's in this tier 3. But he is very, very mobile. He's one of those guys. I hate saying it, and I hate comparing him to Lamar Jackson just because I see the Louisville. In his running style, he's very shifty, kind of like Lamar Jackson. I don't want to compare him to Lamar Jackson, but he is very shifty. I would love to see him get some of his accuracy down. I'd love to see him make more read progressions throughout a play. But even if he doesn't, I could see him coming into the league and, playing wide receiver. I could see him being, a backup quarterback that if he puts on 20 pounds, can come in and just be a gadget guy, can be a goal line quarterback for his first couple years. If he plays like he did last year, I think you see him go around the 5th, 6th round. If he takes a step up from last year and his accuracy gets a little better, his progression gets a little better, I could see, you could talk him into the first round, but I think more or less he's a 3rd round quarterback if he takes a step forward. So I do like Malik Cunningham, and he's another guy I'm excited to see. I just don't really have my faith in him at this moment. Going down to another guy that I really like, but again, I just don't really see it, is KJ Jefferson, quarterback from Arkansas. He's 6'3", 245 pounds, and he's only going to be 21 when the season starts. So, again, he's a big body. His arm isn't the greatest. His accuracy, his touch, he doesn't really have any of that yet. But he can move for a big guy. For 245 pounds, he can kind of move. He's not someone that you're going to have him run a bunch of read options, but every once in a while, if he has to scramble and make a play, he can make a play. He doesn't really have pocket awareness at this moment. He's big, he's strong, and he's a leader as well. Seeing him against, who were they playing? Last year, I watched him in a couple games, and it was down to the wire on a couple of these games where they were scoring back and forth, and he was on the sideline, pumping up his team, got in the game, and he was making plays. He's not the most consistent quarterback. He's not the most accurate quarterback, but he was willing his team. Him with, Treylon Burks were willing this team. I think it was against Auburn. I also think there was another one against Ole Miss last year. Exciting games, and he's another quarterback who I'm excited to watch. Again, I think he's more of a day 3 guy. He can work his way into the 3rd, 4th round, but he's so raw at this moment. I think he has a lot of talent, but he's so raw. But again, I had to put him on here just because I love watching him play, and he definitely has the character and attitude that you want in a quarterback. So last guy I have for today is Bo Nix, quarterback from Oregon. He was at Auburn, ended up transferring to Oregon. He's 6'3", 215 pounds, and he's going to be 22 years old whenever the season starts. So I do like Bo Nix. He makes some good plays, some crazy plays. He extends plays. He's got good mobility to him for his size. I would say he's got pretty decent mobility. He's not going to be a Lamar Jackson. He's not going to be a Josh Allen. He's more of like a Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence type, where if he has to scoot up, he'll take the yards. And he's kind of got sneaky mobility, but he's more just get outside the pocket and extend the play. So he has a solid arm. He has pretty decent accuracy, but his decision making is really what's holding him back right now. He's kind of got the Ryan Fitzpatrick, like, F it attitude. Like, I'm going to make this play, whether it's makeable or not, where he'll just throw it into places where you're like, dude, what are you doing? But then other times he throws it into places you're like, oh my God, how did he do that? So Bo Nix is a guy that if he can, I don't think he ever will. I think that's kind of his attitude is, I'm going to risk it for the biscuit. But if he could cut back on those what the F plays, I could see him, being a 2nd, 3rd round quarterback as well. So, that's everything I've got for today. Going back through it, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud quarterbacks are, 1st round locks. I think they're both going to go in the top 5, especially if they have years like they did last year. And if they take steps forward, even better. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and Tyler Van Dyke. Those are all quarterbacks that have the good size, good arm, and good mobility. They just need a little accuracy underneath them. Going to tier 2, which now that I'm talking about, I wish I would move Dillon Gabriel. I think I will move Dillon Gabriel down to my tier 3 guys. Just guys that have a lot to prove. These are guys that, if they can take a big stride forward, you could see them talked about as late 1st round guys. And then my last tier are just other notable guys who, are solid quarterbacks in their own right. And I can't really say much more than that other than they all have different strengths and weaknesses. If they can, they have more weaknesses than strengths, I think, and more concerns. But if they could make one of those or 2 of those weaknesses into strength, I think you're talking about, a day 2 prospect, the 2nd, 3rd round pick. So we'll see how these go. I have a feeling that a lot of these guys, Dylan Gabriel, Malik Cunningham, KJ Jefferson are all going to go back to school. I can see Grayson McCall just saying, whatever, I'm just going to leave now. Keenan Slovis, I think he's going to do well. Bo Nix is another guy who I think he's done with college. I think he's going to go ahead after this year and try to make it in the NFL. So that's all I've got for you guys today. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Next week on Wednesday, we will be going over the 2023 running back prospects to kind of look at in this upcoming college season. So we're going to make our way through the positions coming up, over the next, I think it'll probably take 7-8 weeks. And by the time we're done with that, it will be college season again. So we'll finally get some football again. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.